And we're back. We've flipped this piece. I bored it from the other side. Now I want to bore out into the surface a couple of, well, a groove for a thrust bearing. So a 3-piece thrust bearing is going to sit in a slot and just sit just proud of this surface. So you know, we'll measure the depth and all the rest. We've centered it, and we'll give it a go. I'll bring you back when we're winning. Okay, so there's the Warholter head in its presentation box with the simple bits and pieces that come with it to keep it happy. Sleeve adapters, really useful, with a stop and a relief on them. Using the square cutting steel is a really nice way to go. So it's the same sort of setup again. This time I've got a little square cutter in a tool holder that sits in the head, and we're just going to roughly see where we are and adjust the cutter, slowly bringing it to the size that we need. Okay, I was cranking on the table there. That is pretty much zero. It's a fag paper away, so I'll put me as a 0 there, and I'll put me as a 0 on me down. Now I know roughly where I am. Then I'll drop off it. Then I'll fire up the bad boy. And I should start hitting in about there. Okay, well, that's a pretty good failure. We're hitting harder at one end than the other end. And there's 10 ton of chatter. There we have it. We're on the Tom Senior. Got the boring head going on. We've plunged in and then face across. When I plunge in, I'll lock the head because I'm not feeding, and then I'll feed across. So I'll unlock the head and bring the feed rod round. Okay, so nicely set. We've got the machine chugged down in back gear to 50 RPM. So this is going to chunter across. This is about a 0.25mm cut. Very good, Wilson. Very good. That's good. There it goes. Push the feed button in, that would help. And here we feed. Brutale. So we're getting on the big diameters now. It's just clicked off. So, I've got my headphones on, ear defenders on. We're coming up with a nice facing cut there. And then what I do is I check my ring in the hole, and if I need to make adjustments, I can use the fine adjustment ring and just move it a little tiddle. Alright, so, but you can see where we're going. A little bit more off the outside, a little bit more off the inside. Alright, so took a bit of fiddling, but there's the tool. And then when I've done a cut, I'm just dressing the tool in situation ever so slightly. It's got relief off the side flanks, relief off the face, and relief off the cutting edge, all about 5 degrees. And if I zoom out, you'll see the set. There we go. So I'm going to give it a little bit more again. You can see that wants to go in, but I'll leave it with a bit of spare anyway. See if the yeah, so the inside, yeah, that's going in. There you go. Thrust bearing goes in. I just need the bearing washers. Cracking. Okay, so I've done a slight adjustment on the cut, and what we're going to do now is do a full facing. So on we go, 50 revs a minute, and we're going to cut 0.25 millimeter depth. So this is just taking a little more off the inside. There we go. Lovely. Take the lock off the back. Oh, come on. There's the feed in. Feeds in. Top button disengaged. Back button undone. You can see the dials moving. The epicyclic gears are working. Let's hang on. Okay. So the lock's kicked out. Now it's supposed to lock these rings together, but I'm just going to hold them. Oh, and that'll take me back. I know, I never got that knockoff sorted. I'm lucky. But it comes back pretty quick. It's a rapid return. There we go. Now I'll clean that out. And then plunge again. Okay, good. So we've just about bottomed our hole. I got halfway through cutting it, jammed the cutter because I hit a pocket of glue between the two layers, the sandwich layers between the top and bottom. Snapped the cutter, threw the head out of alignment, threw the piece out of alignment. So I had to realign it, and I recentered it just with a basic centre, that got it really accurate, really good. And to line the head up, I'd originally trammed the head with an Edge Technology tramming device, which I thought was pretty good. Then I went up a snoot again and I mounted a delicate micrometer gauge, a dial gauge in the head itself. So I trammed the head using the test gauge, but that was a chuff on. So in the end, I just squared the head up by taking the cutter out and dropping it onto this machined face, and that was the best way to line it up. When I was cutting deep in the groove, eventually I worked out that I needed to lock the knee because it was cutting the wrong depth at one side in comparison to the other. So I got it correct this way, but this a ways I needed to lock the knee. So all in all, in the end, we're close. And I made my final measurements not by measuring the depth, but by putting the bearing in and just putting a bit of load on it. Oh, and right at the end there you can see how chocked up the cutter was. I was right chocked up. Make sure there's no grot in here. And this should, so this is clean now and we should be pretty close. So I'm dropping my bearing in, 3-part bearing, pretty nice and clean. Okay, so I've loaded that up with a parallel and we are getting down amongst the weeds here. We're just about a 1,000th clearance each side, and I am pretty pleased about that, because getting this head to cut exactly square on this was tricky. The key was just dropping that cutter out and sitting it flat on the boss, and that worked really well. Boring head days pretty much done. Wool help to head, absolutely phenomenal, beautiful piece of kit, really accurate, but you know, you have to have your wits about you when you're working with it. Anyway, shed, guy, gone.